its doors to residents of 3 West African countries battling Ebola. The federal government is suspending visas and permanent resident applications for anyone from Guinea, Sierra Leone, and Liberia. The government says it's to protect the health of Canadians, and it follows a similar move by Australia. But the World Health Organization says there's no evidence that travel bans are actually effective. The decision may also violate an international treaty Canada helped negotiate after the SARS outbreak in 2003. Well, for more reaction, let's turn to Amir Attaran. He's an international law professor at the University of Ottawa, and he also helped draft Canada's international health regulations. So, Amir, thanks for taking the time to speak with us. First off, what was your reaction when you heard about Canada suspending these visas?
I was shocked. I mean, there's no scientific sense in this, and there's no legal sense in it either. What you said in the intro is only part of what's going on. Actually, anybody who has been to the 3 countries you named, Guinea, Sierra Leone, Liberia, anyone cannot come to Canada for a period of 3 months after going there, even if they're not originally from those countries. So what this does is it cuts us off from all the experts, scientists, and doctors who are traveling there. If we have a problem with Ebola here in Canada, I hope we don't, we're going to want those people here and not to put them under a visa ban.
Amir, we've been hearing U.S. lawmakers calling for these kinds of bans to close the borders and what have you. We've heard the U.S. president say time and time again that would not be helpful. In fact, people would find other ways of getting into this country, and we wouldn't know where they are at that point. The WHO, the World Health Organization, said that this could be really bad economically as well for those countries. I wonder, do you see this as making the situation more dangerous?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a fire burning in West Africa right now, and we are taking vengeance against the firefighters. That's what we're doing. And if you think that makes it safer, boy, are you ever wrong. President Obama was right in restricting travel only to persons who show active infection on their return. Stephen Harper and his government are wrong. Everybody is restricted. And listen to this. In the most extreme example, the rules announced by the immigration minister, Chris Alexander, yesterday, prohibit people entering Canada even if they intend to go to West Africa. If they've never been there, just if they intend to go to West Africa, they're forbidden from coming here. What logic is that? You can't get sick by intending to go to a part of the world, can you?
What would the logic be? What do you think?
I don't know, but Minister Alexander probably needs to go back and take some high school biology classes, to be honest. You do not get a virus simply by intending to travel somewhere. And just to illustrate for your viewers how problematic this can be, imagine an American scientist who wants to go to West Africa to study this epidemic and to fight it. And that person needs to go to our public health laboratory in Winnipeg on the way. We're going to prohibit that person entering the country. Why? Because they intend to go to West Africa. It's foolish.
So, Amir, what message does the visa ban send about Canada's approach to this outbreak?
Well, as you know, the government has been waging a war on scientists and science for quite some time. And I think we've hit the point where there's really no science expertise left to advise the government on things like this, or the people who are there simply aren't being listened to. The message that's sent to the world is we are the most panic-stricken country on Ebola, because no other government in the world has adopted restrictions as tight as these. We're at the bottom, I'm afraid.
There are countries, though, that have closed their borders entirely, though, my understanding, in South America and, of course, in the region itself. So there are other restrictions that have been rather heavy-handed put out by other nations.
There are other restrictions in the region, but even today you do have people traveling back and forth between the West African countries that are affected and, for example, other West African countries that are neighbors. And I'm not aware of any country in the world that bans travel simply because someone intends in the future to travel to West Africa. We are at the bottom, and we have taken the most fear-stricken approach of anywhere in the world. It doesn't make scientific sense, and I hope that Minister Alexander can explain why simply thinking about going to West Africa means you're too dangerous to come to Canada.
Yeah, I see what you're saying about the intention. Amir, let me ask you, you're a law professor. Is there any legal recourse for anyone affected by these bans?
It's very likely that the persons who are affected would have their charter rights violated, and they could go to court for that. It's also quite likely that we have just breached the rules that, as Canada, we helped put in place through the World Health Organization for travel restrictions. You have to remember, in 2003, when Toronto was stricken by SARS, how much our politicians complained at the rest of the world putting us under restrictions. Well, what goes around comes around. And by breaking the rules now, if ever there's an epidemic in Canada, you can pretty well guarantee that other countries are going to remember this and get us back.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Amir, I want to thank you very much for your time and your expertise. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Amir Attaran is an international law professor at the University of Ottawa, and we have put in calls to the Ministry of